Hello, everybody, and welcome to the D-Pad, where today we are unboxing the Sega Genesis Mini 2. Yeah, so for anyone who's not familiar, number 2, DOS. Duh. We also have right here the Sega Genesis Mini 1. So we unboxed that a couple years ago, maybe 2, I think, years ago.
Another 2.
Yeah, another 2. It came out 3 years ago, which is not a 2. It's not a 2. But Sega discovered how popular and profitable that was.
Discovered that this was a good idea.
Yeah, it turns out selling a glorified Raspberry Pi with a bunch of your games as ROMs on it.
A bunch of your childhood game. Yeah.
Sells pretty well. So they put out the Genesis Mini 2, notably in a much smaller box. Also,
basically the same size.
Yeah. So the other box was about the same size as an actual Genesis, which you'll notice is much bigger. It is not mini.
Wow, crazy.
I know. But so what's interesting is in Japan there were a bunch of places you could get the Sega Genesis Mini 2, but in the US and the UK this was an Amazon exclusive.
Such a weird choice.
And not to mention, Amazon is getting weird lately with delivery dates. Because I pre-ordered this.
It used to be you could get it guaranteed to be there the day that it was released. They were really good about it for a long time.
It used to be a difficult choice between Amazon and GameStop because both of them were very, very good about having it on your doorstep.
It was really a question of how close you
later.
Lived to a GameStop at that point because you could just walk there and pick it up if you like.
For sure. But this isn't sold in any stores. It is only online. And this came out actually in October. But it took an extra week to arrive because Amazon delayed it by so much. And I pre-ordered this back in like July. So this isn't like, oh, I pre-ordered it a week ago and so I'm at the end of the line. No. So I don't know what happened here. Likewise, so today is also the day that Sonic Frontiers comes out. And I may have to buy it.
One day you'll get that disc.
I may have to buy it digitally a second time. Because the physical disc isn't getting here for another 2 weeks.
Seriously? 2 weeks?
The 21st.
That's pretty terrible. I expected it by, this weekend at some point.
It was originally scheduled to arrive on the 10th, which is fine. That's 2 days after launch. That's acceptable, and we wouldn't have gotten to record it till this weekend anyway. But instead, it's like, how about like a 13-day delay?
That's
and
just
it's like
a cancel your order and tell Amazon to go get fucked.
But I do want the disc.
No, I know. I prefer physical copies a lot of the time as well.
Well, especially lately. I mean, the Wii the Wii and Wii U
all those stores,
all those are all going down.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if you've bought it, sucks to suck. And it's like, well, let me download it to a USB or something. Let me keep this. This is mine.
Yep. So in an era where all of these digital stores are slowly eroding before our eyes, I have a certain amount of value for physical copies at this point. I try to get physical copies of at least the games that are important to me. The ones that I know that I might come back to.
You've left my Dokapon Kingdom physical copy just sitting out, not in its case. I worked really hard to get that PlayStation 2 copy. They're very hard to find.
I can put it back in its case afterwards.
Yeah, you can.
The disc part is sitting face down very carefully in a spot that doesn't get touched. It's
in
fine.
the pile of dusty controllers. Yeah,
no,
it's fine.
It's under one wire and it's sitting on top of a copy of Super Mario World, and neither of them have moved in a long time. So it's not getting scratched.
So it's been sitting there out of the case for a very long time.
Doing nothing. A quick swipe will get all the dust off of it. Regardless, Sega Genesis Mini 2. Like I was saying before, very small box. So the main difference between this and the Genesis Mini 1, there are, I believe, entirely different games on this with one or two exceptions. There's one or two games that are different versions of games that are on here. In one case, I think there's a port to the Sega CD or Sega 32X that's on here that was on there. In one case, there's a version that is essentially an arcade port, whereas the Genesis Mini had the console version.
Oh, interesting.
So the number one difference here, aside from the fact that this has more games, this has 60 games on it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. This game...
I thought it was just like this. Oh, yeah. No, that list keeps going.
Yeah. The Genesis Mini 2 has Sega Genesis games, Sega CD games, Sega 32X games, and also arcade ports specifically. Sega was really big on their arcade development for a long time, so they decided to take advantage of this to kind of pull more of those in.
Something very amusing to me just about the couple of game titles with all caps.
Oh yeah.
Just like every once in a while, there's
The
just one with
copyrights
just
on those.
all caps on the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just something fun.
Well, let's pop this thing open and let me
actual
get my mic over
unboxing
here.
part of the unboxing.
Yeah, I know, right? Let's get to that. Yeah, we'll spin that around. Also, should show what the back of the box looks like.
Oh yes, the list that I was referring to.
Visual list,
the list,
verbal list, all of these things.
I don't know if it's verbal unless we read it out.
There might be a verb in there. Is there a verb in there?
I don't think that's how that works, baby. But yes, there's lots of verbs.
Return. There we go. That's more used as a noun.
I don't.
There might not be any actual verbs there.
Is a noun.
Like the return of Jafar is not using it as a verb.
Okay, I suppose it's.
Okay, we got our HDMI cable. We have our, what is this? USB to probably USB micro, it looks like.
You can never tell which one's mini and which one's micro. I never remember.
Micro is smaller than mini. Mini is the one that looks like a little trapezoid, and micro is the one that's flat. Or basically flat.
They're both pretty close to flat.
We got our controller. Now I'm wondering, is it going to be a 6-button controller like the later?
I think it's going to be like the classic Genesis controller. Why would it not be?
Well, so the design of the Genesis Mini, I don't know if you actually looked at
I did not look at the box. That's cheating.
It has a different design. It actually uses the later design of the console. I want to say that
that kind of makes sense for it to be the 2.0 console design.
Yeah. I want to say that was a version that was more popular or it was more sold in like European regions. So you don't
think it's going to be this picture, literally?
Well, yeah.
I'm confused.
Ba-boom, 6 buttons. Hooray.
Okay, I was like...
So there's a few reasons for this. One, because that's just like what... eventually they started selling the 6-button controllers in general, but also as a thing that we noticed when we did our complete 32X series, there are 32X games that require a 6-button controller.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
There were a game or two we did not realize that for, and it actually became
tough.
A problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 6-button controller, which is great. Ironically, I have...
Having one is nice now, yeah.
Well, I have a 6-button USB controller, but I think it's an unofficial one. So now this is technically an official Sega. USB 6-button controller. I also find it very amusing, and I may have said this. I may have said this the first time around.
ABC, XYZ. Yeah. That makes. I was like, what would you even call them? But that makes sense.
So it is very interesting to me that the Genesis Mini 2 and the Genesis Mini 1 use USB controllers because we'll start with that's the plug thing. That's
just I was gonna say that's just the brick.
If you want to do that while I do my spiel. So
just really slowly.
Yeah. These controllers, so the original Sega Genesis controllers used a very common 9-pin connector, which actually was compatible with the old Atari consoles. So you could actually play the Atari using a Sega Genesis controller.
Oh, wacky.
Yeah,
that's
and
weird.
It was a very common connector type, which makes it interesting. Nice.
That makes me happy. The flaps work.
It's interesting that the new ones use the USB, which is also a very common connector type. You can plug that into your computer and do stuff with it. So let's compare these two.
All the buttons work.
Let's see what we got for sizes here.
Pretty
similar size, same length, same depth or whatever, but you can see
a little bit. Yeah, they tightened it up that way.
Yeah, so comparison there, definitely slimmer, but it is just as deep.
I mean, honestly, I would bet that you're using the exact same board.
Almost
control
certainly.
board, and it's like, okay, this is the width of the board or whatever. And there we go.
This was, to be honest, the style that I grew up with, so I never really had
it has the flappies too.
Yes.
Excellent.
I never had a huge fondness for this design, but I'm going to tip it down so they can see that part to it.
It's the one that's it's the, what's the word I want? The one that had the nostalgia, right?
Yeah,
that nostalgia hit.
But otherwise, it's got the same thing on the back. It's got the HDMI and the USB connectors.
HDMI-like thing.
Basically the same thing going on with that. Bottom, nothing really interesting there. So, so pretty straightforward. Not a lot of bells and whistles going on in the actual box itself. But let's plug it in and see what we got on the menu.
They look so identical.
They do. Yeah.
But.
Oh. Okay. Very different sounding menu this time around.
Similar looking.
Yeah, very similar looking.
5 games, though, not 6.
Yeah, it's 5 across instead of 6, and this is just going to go on forever like this, because there's 12 rows then.
There's many, yes.
Yeah, 12 rows of 5. Toggle display, what is this going to do?
Ooh,
okay.
That's cool. A lot of red. Red was
I mean, that was a pretty common
color. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is all of them. All right. I was like, I was wondering, like, okay, is that all?
It's fun that they have them all at different heights and stuff. I'm wondering if that had to do with like their actual box sizes.
Yes, because you'll notice that all the Sega CD ones specifically have the weird sizes.
They're
Yeah. So I was a little bit off before. So this does the Sega CD, not the 32X. This has CD stuff.
The 32X was the last one.
Yes. Yeah. So two interesting things that I forgot to mention during the camera bit that I wanted to throw in here. Do you notice anything weird about our setup right now?
Not really.
No? Where's your controller?
Well, I don't have one because you never let me play because you don't love me.
Or maybe because they only packed one controller with this console.
Nah, you just don't love me.
Even though it contains 2-player games.
That is a weird choice.
Yeah.
Was there an option to buy a second controller?
In fact, my guess is that they were banking on people buying the Genesis Mini before this.
Oh, and
hang on one second.
Having compatible controllers?
Just making sure we're actually recording. Yeah, to have another controller for it. And it's not even like you had a really good chance of buying a second one of these because they only made 1/10 as many as they did the first Genesis
so
Mini.
Many weird choices in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like the first one was pretty popular. Why would you not make more? Like, I don't know, whatever.
Okay, I did it in the middle, so it got confused.
Okay.
I was like, why did it get into that?
It. Got it.
I was just like, why did it get into that weird stacked up looking
Right, it
thing?
just stopped, and I was like, uh-oh.
So yeah, we have a whole lot of these. There's only a few that I've heard of. So Afterburner I've heard of.
Heard of Echo the Dolphin, of course.
Echo the Dolphin, definitely.
Everyone's
Clay
heard of
Fighter,
Echo the
Earthworm Jim.
Echo the
The
Dolphin
sequel,
2.
The sequel, yep.
I'd never heard of Echo
Fantasy
the Dolphin 2.
Zone. Is that Fatal Fury? I think it's Fatal Fury, Final Fight.
Some of these titles are hard to read.
Golden Axe, yeah, no kidding. Holy shit.
Return.
Herzog Zwei, Night Trap, it's back. Whatever this is, using the exact same font that Resident Evil uses today, which is kind of funny, especially considering I want to say Resistance is the name of a subtitled Resident Evil thing at this point.
Also, Lightning Force. Not lightning, but lightning.
Lightning.
Quest for the Dark Star. So at least they're keeping it consistent.
Okay, all right. Outrun, I've heard of that one. Rystar. We'll finally get to actually do Rystar. Or Ristar. I've always known it as Rystar, but Phantasy Star 2, Populous.
Sewer Shark?
Sewer Shark. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A little FMV action there. Outrunners. So Outrun and Outrunners, I believe they are part of the same series. It's just a weird little thing there. Shining Force 2, Shining Force CD, Shining in the Darkness, which is actually the first Shining game. These ones all came later.
They do not look like they're related
too
much.
Shining Force CD, notably, contains...
Oh, wow, we're getting some of the music.
Yeah, holy cow, that's very loud. Contains, at the very least, the Game Gear... I believe Shining Force CD is the 2 Game Gear games as one collected thing. Like,
gotcha.
Nicely done and remade up and stuff. So this is actually familiar territory for me. Shining Force 2, The Sword of Hajia, was one of my favorite games growing up. Splatterhouse, Space Harrier 2.
Splatterhouse 2.
Some Sonic and Sonic 3D Blast. What else do we have here? Streets of Rage.
Oh, the ooze.
Super Street Fighter 2. Oh, nice.
Panic on Funkotron.
No one's favorite Toe Jam and Earl game. Perfect. I guess that's unfair. I've heard Toe Jam. I've never played Toe Jam and Earl 3, but I've heard that one is like hard to sit through. Revenge of Shinobi. Oh, good. Another Vector Man game.
Vector Man.
That went real well last time.
Pio Pio-san. Very anime.
All right. Versus Pio Pio-san.
Oh, well.
Virtua Racing. All right, there we go.
Horse song, the horse one.
Well, we're going to come back next time, and it feels appropriate to start with Sonic CD. Get that out of the way first, and then we can...
you don't play enough Sonic games?
Just to get it out of the way, get the expectations out of the way.
I'm just checking.
and to give our dear Final Biscuit a mild aneurysm over probably the 6th or 7th entry of Sonic CD.
I mean, you've already given him an aneurysm over the fact that you're doing this at all.
Oh, absolutely. Especially alongside
game
still figuring out.
And
Some of them will already exist. Night Trap will be there. These two will be there. So it's only 57.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see.
Okay, Rick suffers. He just wants everyone else to suffer.
Yeah,
with
I
him.
get to do all the thumbnails for this. So we'll see you guys next time.